Good afternoon, guys, from Wick, northeast Scotland, Wick Harbour just behind me there. And yeah, this afternoon I am taking probably the UK mainland's most northerly express bus service, the Stagecoach X99, all the way down to Inverness, which is going to take about 3 hours, give or take a few minutes. What's it like? Well, I've got no idea, to be honest with you. That's why I'm here, isn't it? So yeah, we'll go and catch the bus. It's going to be coming into Bridge Street, I think. I'll catch it from there, and we'll get on board, and yeah, we'll see what it's like, shall we? I'll see you on the bus. Okay, well, I made it up to the bus and coach stop, as it says here, which is right on the bridge. It crosses the unimaginatively named Wick River. Now, I'd made it down here on the train from Thurso. I was only in town about an hour, but yeah, it seemed like quite a nice little place from what I saw of it. The bus stop is literally on the bridge. I'm a bit nervous about these kind of bus stops as opposed to bus stations because I'm never quite sure which side of the road the bus is going to. I'm pretty sure I've got the right side. Otherwise, well, I think the other side of the road that goes to back up to Thurso, so it should be alright. It's just a matter of waiting now, and hopefully it'll turn up on time. Yeah, there was nothing here apart from that old sign. No bus numbers, timetables or anything. But after a while, a small number of people started to gather, which gave me some reassurance that I was in the right place. And then the bus turned up, a YX63NGN, a 2013 Volvo B13RT Plaxton Panther. Yeah, looking really smart in the yellow Stagecoach delivery, I thought. I find this quite irritating, right? You know when there's like a queue of people leading up to the first in line, i.e. the head of the queue, and then somebody turns up and instead of going to the back of the queue, they hang around at the front, and then they decide they must get on first, but basically pushing in, aren't they? And then they sit in the front seats too, and yeah, I don't know, maybe it's me, maybe it's a British thing, but yeah, I just find it a bit irritating, that's all. That's it. Cool.
You can chuck your bag underneath if you want.
I'll take it, I'll be alright. Squeeze in. Cheers, mate. The bus was fairly quiet, and I made my way down, choosing a seat on the left-hand side facing forward, so I could get some decent views of the coast. First impressions were, well, yeah, clean, a fairly standard Stagecoach interior, really. The seats were, if anything, a little bit tight, but yeah, we'd see how that went by the time we got further down the road. We left Wick, Bridge Street, pretty much on time, and I reckon about a dozen people got on here, and we headed south towards our first main stop on the timetable, which was Libster. Now, this bus had originated from Thurso at 11:50, although it's worth pointing out that some services start from Scrabster, which is the ferry terminal, and that's presumably to connect with the arrival of the ferry from Stromness in Orkney. And as always, I would advise checking the bus timetables for the best bus for your specific needs. After about 7 miles down the road, we were at Ulster Alpaca Trekking, which I didn't even think was a thing, to be honest, but yeah, it obviously is if you feel the need, and you can see all the alpacas here in the field. And even on a fairly cloudy day like today, there's still some great sea views to be had from our high up vantage point on the bus. And talking about stopping, although this is an express bus service, it just stops wherever you want it to, really, and yeah, I can see the need as well. I mean, many people getting on at Thurso and Wick, they were just going back home, I figured, maybe they'd done their shopping, and for a lot of people, especially the elderly living in these remote communities, this bus service is an absolute lifeline. We turn off the A99 briefly at Libster, the first sizable community we come to. As usual, I tried to read up about the place on Wikipedia and found that it used to be an important fishing port, herring mainly, back in the 19th century. The harbour in particular looks a really nice place to explore, but unfortunately all we see from the bus is this rather bland looking housing estate before turning round and heading back down to the main road. We're at Latheron now, which is where we meet the A9 coming down from Thurso. We continue past the junction, but our road now becomes the main A9, which will take us all the way down to Inverness. The sea views continue as we head down into Dunbeath, crossing Dunbeath Water, just before it heads out into Dunbeath Bay. Interesting fact from Wikipedia is that Prince George, Duke of Kent, was killed when the short Sunderland flying boat he was in crashed into the hillside near here back in 1942. Right, so let's have a look at the seat, and first thing to note, these tiny kind of leather antimacassars on the headrests. And a fairly firm back support, though it felt comfortable enough, I thought, at this point of the journey. Lap belts are provided, as you can see here, and yeah, quite a firm lower area on the seat too. Note that rubbish bags are provided at every aisle seat, and the legroom, well, yeah, like I said, it looked a bit tight initially, but yeah, to be honest, once I'd settled in, it wasn't really too bad. There's a retractable armrest between the seats, above which are individual air vents and reading lights. The seat backs themselves have integrated handles and coat hooks. Note there is no fold down table provided, and also no USB charging, so yeah, as always, make sure you have a charged up battery pack if you need the power. Right, enjoy the scenery with me as we head down the sharp corners into Berrydale and then Helmsdale, where we meet the fantastic Far North Line Railway. Link to my video on that here, and I'll speak to you again when we reach Dornoch. Okay, so 2 hours in and the weather's deteriorated a bit, as you can see here, but yeah, we've made it to Dornoch, where a handful of passengers have been cowering in the bus shelter, waiting for us to turn up. Dornoch, a population of about 1,400, looked an interesting place really. This building here is Dornoch Jail, which I think is a bit of a tourist attraction these days. And it's got a castle and a cathedral. And it was in the latter that the Queen of Pop and lip-syncing specialist Madonna had her son christened back in the year 2000. At this point it was time to visit the loo on this bus. Yes, I was pleasantly surprised to find a toilet, to be honest, but yeah, here it was, located right at the back of the bus on the same level as the seats. A little bit like your typical National Express coach, I thought. There was a small mirror here above the sink, inside which I found a very large toilet roll. and next to the sink was a bin which didn't have a liner in it, and someone had lobbed an empty bottle of something into it as well. I'm not sure what it was, but not sure why they couldn't use the plastic bags by the seats either, to be honest. Now the tap worked, there was no liquid soap available, but the air dryer worked. And all in all, well, yeah, it was good that the bus had a toilet. Shame it wasn't properly stocked, but I guess it was okay for an emergency. And returning to my seat, I tried out the Wi-Fi, which tried to connect to the CityLink Wi-Fi. Now this appeared to be the only option available, but although the symbol appeared, nothing actually happened. Not sure, but if anyone can figure out whether this is normal or not, or whether I was doing something wrong, then yeah, please do let me know in the comments below. Right, let's crack on. We're just crossing the River Everlix here, or Everlix, not quite sure how it's pronounced, but we're heading west, and at Skibo Castle, where Madonna married Guy Ritchie the day after the Dornoch christening, by the way, we turn south and cross the Dornoch Firth by means of a bridge of the same name. And this is the difference really, isn't it? The X99 takes about 3.5 hours to get from Thurso down to Inverness, whereas the train takes 4 hours. The bus will cover 124 miles, whereas the train is 153 miles. Now the difference being that the road bridges on the Dornoch, Cromarty and Bewley Firths effectively cut corners, don't they? And the train has to take the long way round, heading inland at each of these points instead. The bus is considerably more expensive though, unless you're taking the train last minute. Now this ticket, joining the bus at Wick, cost me £23, adult single, all the way down to Inverness. The train can be booked just a day in advance for £14 from either Wick or Thurso. And if you're lucky, you may even get a trolley service on board too. So if I had to choose, then yeah, the cheaper cost of the Far North Line and its spectacular route, including its forays inland, just wins it for me, even with the extra half an hour journey time. But yeah, having said that, I was really surprised at how beautiful the coastline is up here, particularly in the areas that the train doesn't reach. Now, between Wick and Helmsdale, there are lots of hidden coves, fishing villages, cliffs and beaches. Dornoch is another example of somewhere I'd love to spend more time at, and even on a day like today with the weather as it is, I'm wishing I could have got off at several places along the way really. Now we crossed the last of the bridges, the Kessock Bridge, just north of Inverness, and past Inverness Caledonian Thistle Football Club's ground on our left, before heading into the city centre and the bus and coach station. The bus pulled onto Stance 2 at 15:17, 6 minutes early, which was a bonus. And as quickly as I disembarked, the bus was off. I'm not sure where to, but it certainly wasn't hanging around, that was for sure. And neither was I, to be honest. I headed off for my hotel for the night, which was only round the corner. And yeah, after settling in, I took a minute or two to just reflect on the journey. Right then guys, that was the Stagecoach X99 express bus service all the way down from, well, it originates in Thurso, this particular one, going down to Inverness. I caught it on Bridge Street in Wick. And yeah, what did you think? For me, it was, what was it, about, well, just under 3 hours in total. So it's a little bit quicker than the train. And the other thing is, it's more expensive than the train as well. So given the choice, and looking at the facilities on board the bus, I shouldn't have said coach then, compared to the train, I would pick the train every time, to be honest with you. The sooner it's better on the train, and you may get lucky and get a trolley service on board as well. No such luck on the bus. So yeah, like I said, let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you done this trip or something similar? What did you think of it, and would you take the bus as opposed to the train? Thanks as always for watching guys, and please join me on another adventure soon, and as always, cheers for now.